All right. We are live, but we got to make sure we get the Facebook groups in here.
Are we live? We're live?
We're live.
Is everything
We
good?
just
Okay.
gotta let it breathe here.
At least I didn't
Just waiting
freak
for a
out.
couple green check marks. There's one, there's two. Welcome into another episode of the Dove Valley Deep Divers. I'm your host, Erick Trickel, and joining me on this fine Friday night, this fine January 16th. Fortunately, I made it through yesterday. Lance, though, you're here. You're on this, again, fine Friday night with playoff football in the morning. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, by the way, happy belated birthday, brother.
Thank you.
I knew you probably didn't want that to be thrown out there, but happy birthday. I'm doing good, man. Super stoked about this. Obviously, guys, the first home playoff game for the Broncos in a decade. We're going to break down a lot of that, but just the fact that Broncos are in the playoffs, number one seed coming off the bye, got a good matchup this week against the Buffalo Bills. I'm excited for this week, but I'm also kind of pissed off because your boy has to work tomorrow. I have to go to work like super early so that I can get off in time to be able to watch the game. And if I don't get that accomplished, I have to listen to it on the radio, and I haven't done that in a minute. But yeah, it's going to be a long day for me, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm really tired after the night yesterday. As I said, my birthday was yesterday. I turned 25 years old.
Don't lie.
Again, I've been turning 20. I've been turning 25 years old for 9 years now. So that's
Still
where we're at.
Still a pup.
What we went out to eat, and I had a Paloma, I think was what the drink was called, and then I had a watermelon margarita after that. But yeah, it was a fine birthday, I guess would be the way to put it.
Good.
Yeah, tomorrow's game, it's unfortunate that you have to work during it, and you can't have a job where you can get paid to watch the game. How fun do you think that would be?
I mean, I technically do get paid to do the articles and stuff like that, and with you guys here on the show and donations and super chats, you guys definitely help keep the lights on here in the Sanderson household and all over Mile High Huddle. But yeah, it would be really nice to be able to stay at home and watch football literally all day long.
Yeah, I mean, just put in a nice 4-hour day and get in and get that done. But thank you to the belated birthdays that are coming in. I appreciate it. But yeah, there's a lot to talk about with this Bills game. There's a lot of favorable matchups, and there's some concerns here. I did an article that was talking about the 3 ways that Denver could lose this game, 3 ways they can win. And I'm just gonna say it. I started off this morning's show with it too because Nick and his phone had issues, so he wasn't here. But String Guy saying you don't look a day over 70. I especially don't look a day over 70 when I take off the hat. The gray hair, yeah, it doesn't help anything. But I mean, just getting straight into it, this Bills game, if Denver's going to win this game defensively, it's simple. You got to tackle, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's a big thing in any game, but it's especially a big proponent in this one. So went in, did the digging into it. Khalil Shakur, their top receiver, he's third in missed tackles forced among all wide receivers. Josh Allen leads the NFL in non-running backs in both broken tackles and missed tackles forced. James Cook is 6th in broken tackles forced among all running backs, 3rd in missed tackles forced. They do a great job of breaking tackles. They do a good job forcing missed tackles. Denver has to execute there, and it's unfortunate because they have 5 starters on their on defense who are over 10 missed tackles on the season. Talanoa Hufanga, Riley Moss, Alex Singleton, Nik Bonitto, and DJ Jones. And some of those are guys, DJ Jones, especially, Nik Bonitto, especially, were issues in the game last year. And part of that was the missed tackling issues as well as their run defense. So tackling has to be big for the Broncos. And this one has to be an area of focus. Good news is on Monday, they had a padded practice, which was one of the longest, which either was one of the longest or the longest practice that they had all season long. And they really focused on the fundamentals.
Yeah. It's like you mentioned, dude, just the missed tackles from this defense alone. Go back through this entire season. For the most part, it's been a solid tackling unit. Alex Singleton is always just the amount of times he's around the football. He's always going to have a bunch of missed tackles. It's been a big proponent of his, like one of the bigger things that you can point out in his career is like one of the worst aspects of his game is, yes, he's always around the football and he does bring in a lot of tackles. He also misses a lot. He's led the Broncos in missed tackles every single season, if I remember that he's been here, and also missed a lot of tackles for the Philadelphia Eagles early in his career. So that's the one big thing, especially in the running game. Riley Moss, with the amount of times that he's been targeted, and also in the running game when they run to his side, he has a penchant to miss some tackles as well. So that to me is the biggest thing. And when you go back, what's the one game the Broncos lost this season where missed tackles were probably the bigger issue of the overall outcome of the game? The Jacksonville Jaguars game. Yep. The Jacksonville Jaguars game. They missed, I think, 13 tackles in that game. Parker Washington was a player that I'm not going to call him like as a dynamic receiver as a Khalil Shakir, but a very similar skill set. Shifty guys that like to move side to side. They can create some missed tackle opportunities and run with the football after the catch. Parker Washington torched the Broncos on several different missed tackles. I believe he had like 160 yards in that game. It was a huge game.
He had over almost 100 yards on 2 missed tackles by Riley Moss.
Yep, exactly. Like that's how big this game is. And if Riley Moss is dialed in on Khalil Shakir, you have to win that matchup if you're the Denver Broncos. You cannot allow this team to create explosive plays on these quick passing plays that the Broncos do have a penchant to give up. If you're going to do that against Josh Allen and his ability to use his legs when the field gets condensed and the running game in general with James Cook, it's going to be a long day for this Broncos defense. You have to shore up the tackling immediately. And I'm really, really glad to hear that they spent a long time on Monday focusing on the fundamentals, focusing on breaking down, getting after the ball carrier's legs and trying to drive ball carriers to the ground rather than attacking the football. But you do need to also attack the football in this game. You need it. You desperately need from the defense a critical turnover at a key moment in this game.
Yeah. Now we have plenty more to talk about with this game, and we definitely have a lot of people here in the chat to get to. But before we get to that, we do have a presenting sponsor tonight. So we're gonna thank you, Underdog, and we're gonna do what we need to do for that. Lance, if you want to take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Underdog, for sponsoring the show tonight. Guys, the playoffs are here, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all of the action. It's time to get off the bench and into the game. Head over to Underdog. And guys, by the way, it's not just football. Whether you're into basketball, hockey, any sport in between two, Underdog is the best place to get in on all of the action all season long.
Yeah, exactly. Playing on Underdog is easy. You just pick whether your favorite players will go higher and lower on stats like rushing yards, receptions, passing yards like Bo Nix, touchdowns, and so much more. If you guys get your picks right, you could win up to 5,000 times your cash.
Yeah, guys, I have a lot of fun playing on Underdog. Need to redeposit again, and hopefully I can use this promo code. But winning money while you guys are watching football, basketball, hockey, whatever you guys are into, that's a score, that's a touchdown, it's a goal. Everybody, guys, download the Underdog app today. Sign up with promo code MHuddle to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. Again, guys, promo code MHuddle. Millions of fans have already won billions of dollars making picks on Underdog. Will you guys be next?
Be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
And thank you, Underdog, for the sponsorship. But we have some people here in the chat that we got to say hello to. Starting off with David Papa Bear McGillrath saying with the $2 super chat. Thank you, Papa Bear. We appreciate that. Saying good evening, Broncos country. Hashtag 17-3. Let's sure hope so. We have Mblex coming in saying, he's saying, I'm here to party as he always does. And then, of course, get Lohner in the game on the goal line. Have him take one step across the line, turn around and catch a pass from Nick's easy touchdown. And getting right to it, Denver called up Elijah Moore, who spent a good portion of the season with the Bills, and Caleb Lohner off the practice squad. Those are the two call-ups. And my question to you, Lance, will they even be active for this game?
I don't know. And you and I kind of talked briefly about this, but we're bringing it to the show here. Lohner would be the one person that I think that is active out of the two, whether Elijah Moore or Caleb Lohner. I think that Lohner is the one that could be active, but also in the same sense of that, does it not scream to you that like something is going on and it's like a big key to the Bills defense? Because Caleb Lohner has not seen the field since the preseason. He's not been activated one time. And now all of a sudden you're going to activate him in the most important game of the Broncos season. yes, I understand he's a big body, jump ball, possession type of tight end. It's a red zone threat. The 7 catches that he had in college, or I think is what it was, all went for touchdowns in the red zone. The Bills have to be alert to that. Like, they're going to see that Caleb Lohner's on the field, and they're going to know the Broncos are probably going to go in that direction. So it's a tell. Elijah Moore would be fun going against this secondary, but I don't know if they're actually going to bring him up. And who do they sit down in the wide receiver room to get him on the field? Who do the Broncos sit down to get Nate Adkins or to get Caleb Lohner on the field? Like, the roster math just isn't mathing right now. I think it's more of a chess piece deal. Look over here while we're working on this over here kind of thing. I thought that immediately when I first saw the news.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued to see what they do. I have a hard time seeing either one of them active simply because, as you touched on, the roster math. So throughout the season, Denver has never had more than 3 tight ends active. And while they have a healthy Nate Adkins, they have Adam Troutman, they have Evan Ingram, and each one of them are more known and offer more than Caleb Lohner does. Nate Adkins, he's the best blocker on the roster right now. Adam Troutman, he is hit or miss as a blocker, but he's kind of got that versatile skill set. Evan Ingram offers the most as a receiver. Now, what they could do because of Nate Adkins' versatility is possibly look at making Adam Prentice inactive and then using Nate Adkins as that fullback. But that I have questions there, or maybe that's where they're using Caleb Lohner. Maybe they've been working with him with that. So I have a hard time seeing what they do there. And then with Elijah Moore, it's a similar thing. 5 wide receivers active. Who's the guy that's sitting out? It's not Cortland Sutton. It's not going to be Marvin Mims. It's not going to be Pat Bryant. It's not going to be Troy Franklin. Lil Jordan Humphrey against this, as bad as this rushing defense is, do you make one of your better blocking receivers inactive for it? I don't see it. Do you make somebody else inactive to keep a 6 wide receiver active, which I just don't see how you can do with it. You have your 8 offensive linemen. They're all pretty much set. With Frank Crum probably being inactive for this one. So I don't know. I have a lot of questions with what they're going to do with them both, but if they do see the field, hopefully it's because Denver has something in planned for them. But quickly getting through some other people in the chat. We have Denver Luke saying, I'm here in Denver. So excited for the game. Go Broncos. Hope you're loud tomorrow, Denver Luke, for the game. We have Todd on service. Good evening, Broncos country, and happy Friday. Happy Friday to you, Todd. Keith also saying good evening, Broncos country. Ryan coming in saying good evening, Broncos country. So looking forward to tomorrow's game with a little nervousness and excitement as well. If you're a member of Broncos country and you're not at least a little bit nervous in this game, I want whatever it is you've had to drink to calm your nerves, because there's plenty of reasons why Denver should be nervous for this one. Shiloh coming in saying, let's go Broncos. Chase Wellner with his usual DVD with the fist bump. Score predictions, we'll get to that right before the end of the show. We'll give out ours. I see, Ryan has 27-20 for the Broncos. Keith has 23-17. Greg Smith saying, good evening, Broncos country. William Catalano saying, same here, Lance. I was so mad when I found out. Get off with 2 hours to spare, luckily for the game to start. Talking about having to work during the game. Always stinks. Pearl Heater also bummed that having to work tomorrow. Makes me even more thankful that I get a job too that involves watching the Broncos. So that's that. Bugmeister saying, what's up, big dogs? Can't wait for tomorrow. Alaskan King Crab Legs just got here in time for the game. Hope you enjoyed it. There's nothing better than Alaskan King Crab, in my opinion, here. But we got to scroll down here a little bit more because we have Phil McLaughlin coming in saying, good evening, Lance and Eric. Hope you had a great birthday, Eric. It was fine. What do you guys think will be the split of time between the running backs? And this is a very good question, Phil, and we're going to come back to this because this is a big talking point I want to get to. Naj coming in with the $20 super chat. Thank you, Naj. We appreciate that. Saying, hello, brother. Super nervous, but also excited. Hoping for a healthy game with the team giving it their best shot. Enjoy, brothers. Well, one thing's for sure, Denver's entering this game healthy, whereas the Buffalo Bills are not. Denver has everyone who is actually on the roster. Nobody has an injury designation. Obviously, Drew Sanders and Lucas Kroll, they're both out, but neither one of them are on the roster right now. They're still on injury reserve. They've only had their practice window opened. They have not been activated off injury reserve yet.
Yep.
And then you have the Buffalo Bills, who have about 75 people on their injury report. A lot of them questionable, but you have some big players that are out. Maxwell Harrison, he's out. Jordan Poyer, he's out. Those are a couple big things. So Denver's going into this game healthy. Hopefully they can stay healthy throughout the game.
Yeah, I just counted it out as I was looking at the Bills injury report. They have 15 players with they're not all designated for like game status. 15 players on the injury report right now. Like they are beaten, battered, and bruised. And Josh Allen is the key amongst them with a foot, a knee, and a finger injury. And he was limited earlier this week. Full participant. He's obviously going to play. But I went back and watched the Jacksonville game the other just earlier tonight. You could tell that knee is definitely bugging him. He had what looked like a hyperextension on the first push touchdown that he scored. He got kind of bent back over and his knee went backwards. And you could tell there early on, right after that, he wasn't moving nearly as well. And also early in the game, he smacked his finger on the back of one of his offensive lineman helmet on a passing play. And you could tell the ball was coming out of his hand completely differently than it usually does. He didn't have the zip. He didn't have the accuracy. The ball was kind of fluttering as it came out of his hands. Josh Allen's banged up, man. Like the Broncos are in a really good spot here. And I'm not like wishing for injury by any stretch of the imagination. And I hope Josh Allen, as a Wyoming resident, I hope that he has a solid game. Obviously I hope the Broncos win, but I'm always going to root for Josh Allen. The fact that he's banged up gives the Broncos a hell of a lot better chance to win this game. So to run through this injury report and see how banged up this Bills team is right now is a really good piece of information for the Broncos and sets them up for a lot of success in Mile High Stadium coming up here tomorrow at 2:30.
Yeah, and that's for sure. And thank you, Naj, again for the super chat. We have Shannon Mills coming in with a $50 super chat. Wow, thank you, Shannon. We appreciate that. Saying good evening, happy belated birthday, Eric. Maybe I'm overly optimistic, but I just have a feeling Broncos are going to execute better than people think. I'm actually with you. Mm-hmm. I think Denver's with what I've heard, with what their focus was throughout the practice and the time off that they got, because they didn't return to practice until last Thursday, I think is what it was. So they got some days off after that Chargers game, the season finale. They remained focused on it. I think they're going to go out there and I think they're going to surprise a lot of people with their offensive execution. And I think Sean Payton's really going to go and get in his bag when it comes to the play calling in this. I think we're going to see a lot of what we saw early in the season when Sean Payton was undoubtedly doing a great job, in my opinion, anyways, and a lot of other analysts' opinion, undoubtedly doing a great job as a play caller, despite some fan issues with it, especially in the red zone compared to what we're getting out at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think that, well, I completely agree with you. I think he's going to open some stuff up. I also think that this game, guys, is one of those ones where you look at the numbers, especially for this Buffalo Bills defense. Yeah, they're one of the top passing defenses in terms of yards per game in the NFL, but their running defense is absolutely atrocious. And what the Broncos do well, pin and pull. Eric, you actually pointed this out. I thought it wasn't nearly as good as it was. Outside zone is one of the better running plays that the Broncos call in terms of success rate. The Bills on pin and pull, man concepts, and outside zone are a bottom 2 rush defense in the NFL. I think that you're going to see a lot of designer runs, not designer passing play concepts, because this Buffalo Bills defense is very, very good in the passing game. They do a great job in terms of disguising coverage and trying to create confusion for quarterbacks and causing a lot of turnovers. I think that you're going to see a lot of the extension of the running game plays where they're like quick swing passes, a lot of the screen game, and outside zone and pin and pull running plays are going to be the way that this Broncos team wins this game. And I think they're going to out execute the Buffalo Bills up front on the defensive line, just point blank, period. This Bills defensive line is not good against the run. They're terrible.
Yeah, and more on that. I talked about it a lot this morning. I actually rambled on it, I think 3 different times, about the importance it is for the Broncos to get a run game going in this one.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it deals with what the Bills do defensively. They're actually a pretty good passing coverage. They are actually one of the better passing defenses in the NFL this season, in terms of success rate, in terms of yards per game, everything. They are actually a pretty solid unit. They do that by wanting to live in a too high split field shell where they leave the intermediate area of the field open. They keep the linebackers a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage, and they leave that 10 to 20 yard range over the middle open, which is something that Bo Nix struggles with. He struggles with split fields with the cover 2 that they run. That has been by far and away the worst. He actually has the second lowest EPA in the NFL to that, and it's barely better than Cam Ward, who has the lowest EPA against cover 2 in the NFL.
Yep.
But Bo Nix is one of the best. I'd say I believe he's top 10 in EPA in both against cover 1 and cover 3. He might be top 12 in both. And what do the Bills do? Well, when teams get a run game going, and it's something like if teams are consistently able to get to like 75 yards in the running game in the first half, they have almost ran 100% of cover 1 or cover 3 in the second half.
Yep.
Because they just sell out to try to stop the run at that point. And that makes them susceptible to the passing game. That is where they have a lot of issues, a lot of communication errors, a lot of big explosive plays given up. It's important, again, for Denver to get that run game going, to force that defensive change from the Bills into a coverage unit that Bo Nix and the Broncos passing game can then go out there and excel. Because I just don't see it. Bo Nix suddenly turning it on against cover 2 and in the intermediate area of the field, suddenly out of nowhere. So the run game, very important. It's why this morning I labeled that RJ Harvey really needs to be the MVP for this game, especially on offense, because he's got to figure out or Jaleel McLaughlin, whoever it is, the running game has to be the MVP for it. They got to take that pressure off the passing game by forcing the change with the Bills defense.
Yeah, you're completely correct here. And like I said, the Bills will actually come out and they'll show cover 3 and they'll run. It's not quite a drop like an inverted Tampa 2, but they'll bring a safety down closer to the line of scrimmage. I think it's Cole Bishop is the guy that usually does it, but I know that with Jordan Poyer out, is Damar Hamlin going to play? I know they activated him. I thought that he had no injury designation and it was expected that he's
questionable.
Questionable. Okay. So like that's another interesting piece of this dynamic here because Damar Hamlin can play deep. He does play close to the line of scrimmage. They have some interchangeable pieces here, but what they like to do is they'll drop a safety down pre-snap, make it look like it's cover 3, and then drop it back into a cover 2, cover 4, cover 6 kind of look with that 2 deep safety look that you're kind of talking about. The thing where they do, and you're absolutely correct with this, their linebackers are so stagnant, whether it's Matt Milano, whether it's Shaq Thompson, whether it's their other starter, his name is escaping me, Terrell Bernard. Thank you. He's out. Okay. So Milano, Shaq Thompson, those guys, they stay so stagnant and so close to the line of scrimmage.
He's questionable, but the expectation is that he's not going to play.
Right. Regardless, I'm just trying. No, you're good. You're good. The context is needed here, and like I said, I'm super busy and haven't really got a chance to really break everything down. But going back and watching everything, the reason they're bad in the running game is because their linebackers are stagnant. They react late. They want to make sure that they're playing the pass and not playing the run, but they're also playing the run while also not playing the pass. So these linebackers are so stagnant in the design that they're allowing open windows in the second level of the field. And you can get deep digs to Cortland Sutton. You can get a deep crossing route to Pat Bryant. You can get an over route from Marvin Mims. There's a lot of open windows because they drop their safeties and cornerbacks so deep into coverage in their cover 4 looks, and they keep their cornerbacks in their cover 2 looks so close to the flats. Their linebacker play is something that this Broncos offense desperately needs to exploit, especially from wide receivers if they run their 11 personnel packages, whether it's Troy Franklin, whether it's Marvin Mims, whether it's Evan Ingram lined up in the slot when they do run that three wide receiver or 3 receiver formation into the boundary and then run their in routes or in breaking routes or crossing routes. They can exploit these linebackers in this zone coverage in a big way. You just need Bo to actually target that, because it's there on almost every single passing play. When they run that invert Tampa 2, the crossing routes over the middle of the field, over the top of the linebackers, underneath the safeties, layer those throws in, Bo, because you're going to have a day with run after the catch if you can do it.
And going back to the run game on it too, and also going back to Caleb Lohner on it to help get away from those coverages where that Bo Nix struggles with getting him into coverages that he does better against. That's why I'm a little bit surprised that they even made Caleb Lohner active and not Mercedes Lewis, even though he used his practice squad call-ups in the regular season. It resets in the playoffs, so they're able to call him up. And go a little bit bigger, because the Bills are 32nd out of 32 NFL teams in run defense against jumbo packages, and the Broncos are in the top 5 in almost every single metric. I think they're 6th or 7th in average per attempt, or yards per attempt, and that's their lowest one. So I'm a little bit surprised here. I'm curious what they're going to do with that, because that is definitely an advantage they can go with. and to be jumbo packages and 2 receivers or less. Just to be clarify on that. So I'm a little bit surprised for it. And another area, going back to Bo Nix, when he does have that, he cannot be afraid to use his legs. The Buffalo Bills, they allow 9.4 yards to quarterbacks on scrambles, which is the worst in the NFL, and it's 2 yards more than the second lowest team. So there is definitely an opening there, and that is partially because their linebackers, they're very stagnant, as you're touching on, against the run especially. They don't protect that outside for it. And some of those deep players that fly around on the defense, they're banged up, and it's definitely showing. They're not moving around as fast as they once were earlier in the season. So Bo Nix, we've seen it a few times where he's gotten out of the pocket and he seems to be a little bit hesitant to take that extra step to go after it throughout the season. Not so much over the last few weeks. We need those last few weeks from him when it comes to using his legs for it, because that is an opening for this Broncos offense. But we have Deanna Hendry coming in with a $50 super chat. Thank you, Deanna. We appreciate that so much. Saying, good evening, everyone. We need to run the ball and let Bo move about. Keep Allen off the field. Control the clock. I'm confident Broncos win. Go Broncos. #win. Spot on, Deanna. That's exactly what we've been talking about. And, we didn't talk about controlling the clock, but that's another element. Keeping Allen off the field, controlling the clock, keeping Denver ahead of the sticks with that run game as well, whether it be, using Bo Nix on design runs or sneaks or whatever it is, or not sneaks, on scrambles, rollouts, whatever it is. Keep them ahead of the sticks, keep controlling the clock, grind out those wins, force those changes, look for explosives off of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Eric, going back over and watching the Chargers game from week 18, the Chiefs game from week 17, going back to the Raiders game, was that week 14, 13, something like that. What did the Broncos do tremendously well in those games? They controlled the clock. They ground out long 13, 14, 15, 16 play drives that took 7, 8, 9 minutes off the clock in every single one of those games. This is one of those game scripts that you need to follow that exact identity.
I would say almost exact. I'd say there's one big difference that they need to do.
It's scoring in the red zone.
They need to finish in the end zone, not finish with field goals.
And I was just about to get that. So when you go back to even the Green Bay game, hell, even go back to the Jaguars game. They had a couple of long drives in that game that they didn't finish in the end zone. They had to kick field goals on. So if you go back and you watch this offense, they are being methodical. It's not like the most explosive offense you've ever seen, but it's efficient. They're getting 4 or 5, 6 yards a play every single time they touch the football. Yeah, there's the horrible 3 and out, and they have a stretch where they go 2 or 3 drives where it's like 3 plays, 4 plays, 5 plays, punt. You got to get a stop. You get the stop. Here we go on a 13-play drive, and we're going to go kick a field goal. You can't have a 13-play drive against any team in the playoffs. It doesn't matter if it's the Buffalo Bills or not. It could be the Chargers, the Jaguars, who are both out of the playoffs now, the Patriots, the Seattle Seahawks in the Super Bowl. It doesn't matter. If you're in the playoffs, if you have a long, sustained drive like that, you have to punch it into the end zone. The Broncos' red zone offense has been one of the worst. I think it's a bottom 10 unit over the last 6 weeks in the NFL. Early in the season, they were a top 5 unit, if not one of the best units in all of the NFL in the red zone, because Sean Payton's play calling and designs were hitting, and Bo Nix was finding the right options in the red zone all along the early part of the season. For whatever reason that's dropped off, they need to find that again. You have an opportunity right now with this Bills defense that is so bad against the run. They're so bad on outside zone. They're so bad on screens. They're so bad on quick hitters out of the backfield because their linebackers are that bad in covers. They're that bad scraping across the trash and getting into running lanes. You have an opportunity to grind this clock down, possess the football for 40 minutes. And if you can do that against Josh Allen, limit the opportunities that he has to touch the football, and all the while scoring touchdowns. You have to score touchdowns. If you don't, Josh Allen will bite you in the ass every single time.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing. That's one of my big critiques for it. They were winning games, no question about that. They're pulling off the wins, which is great. But they shouldn't have beaten the Chiefs as close as they did, or the Chargers as close as they did in those last 2 games. But they ended up being closer than they looked. They ended up being closer by appearance than they actually were because of their inability to get into the end zone in those games reliably. it led to them, the settling for field goals and, long drives where they just, they were basically moving the ball pretty much at will in both those games. Defense was having their way with them and outside of, a few drives, but it's the importance of ending in the end zone. It can't be overstated. I can't remember. Who was the coach that made the comment is, you kick field goals to lose, you score touchdowns to win, or something to that effect. I can't remember who it was or what the exact quote was.
Is that a Dungyism? I think is that a Tony Dungy thing?
It might have been. I can't remember, but yeah, I'm looking forward to this and seeing what they do. And if Caleb Lohner is even active for this game, even with the call up, he can still be ruled inactive. They could have been doing it, for a little bit extra money his way. Same with Elijah Moore. I hope they have something designed for him in the red zone. I doubt we see him between the 20s, and you talked about that earlier. See him in the red zone most likely if he's active. I hope they have something for him because and some way to not make it obvious, right? Because if he gets out there first time active, as you were touching on earlier, Bills will probably key in on that. So even maybe they have some design on him where he's the decoy, right? They're going to let them key in on him and use him as a decoy. But yeah, it's something for it. And then off that ball control offense, not only is it ending in the end zone, you still got to generate explosive plays out of that. Off that, so wear down that defense, do that enough, run the ball down their throat, hit those quick hitters, move the ball methodically. Eventually, the big plays are going to come. And worth remembering, Denver's only touchdown in their playoff game last year came off an explosive play, came off that deep shot to Troy Franklin. So you need them. And we hate looking back because they're two different teams. But the Jaguars game, the issues that we're highlighting, the long drives, the inability to walk out with touchdowns, and the inability to get explosives, they all came back to bite them in that Jaguars game. And man, this Bills passing defense is rather underrated. You touched on it as well. This is probably the best defense in the NFL when it comes to disguising what they're doing.
Yep.
And it was so frustrating when I was watching them and breaking them down on Tuesday and Wednesday of trying to pinpoint exactly what they were doing. I had to go back and watch the plays over and over again because pre-snap, their reads couldn't do that. You motion a receiver and they follow you and it looks like they're dropping into man. Well, nope, they drop into zone. Sean McDermott has really pulled that into his defense, and it's something that's really become prevalent in NFL defenses this year of using those motions to throw off opposing offenses, opposing quarterbacks, showing man, dropping into zone, showing zone, dropping into man. And he's definitely at the forefront of uses of that. I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Cody Alexander who said on
I know
80 or 90% of passing plays, the Bills show a different coverage than they actually drop into. And they're also utilizing cover 8 a lot more this year, which is something that's not necessarily new to the NFL, but it's not common in the NFL. It's definitely more college football. And that's part of their split field coverages goes into that cover 8 into half quarter that they run and not quarter half that they run. So it's definitely something to watch out for with, again, Bo Nix, not to slam on him, but there's been some issues with his reads pre-snap. He is, against this guy's looks, he is bottom 5 in EPA. He's bottom 5 in success rate. He's bottom 5 in yards per attempt. So when you see heavily disguised defenses, he struggles with it. So it's worth highlighting because of those struggles.
Is it Raheem Morris that also does a lot of that, or is it Todd Bowles? One of those two.
Todd Bowles is the one who really made it. He started doing it like 2 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for reminding me. You touched on it, and I've always been a big proponent of using pre-snap motion in terms of like helping you to identify coverages. Todd Bowles, and it's a lot of match coverage that rotates into a cover 3, cover 4. Like they hybrid it a lot, and a lot of cover 6. Sean McDermott is doing an absolutely fantastic job of doing that, where you're changing the math on the play offensively, but the defense understands that. So they're rotating their assignment. Everybody knows if a guy goes in motion and a guy follows across, we're showing a man coverage look. We're showing that it's man or it's like a 2-man. Then they rotate that entire coverage, and then they'll drop a linebacker back, or they'll drop a safety back, their overhang safety. they do such a tremendous job. I was trying to watch it a little bit in the Jaguars game. It's like you said, it's so confusing to look at. But when you identify that they like to run that cover 6, they like to run that cover 2 where they drop everybody, they run some cover 4 and whatnot, and their linebackers don't get depth, you have to attack that area. And Trevor Lawrence did a fantastic job multiple times to Parker Washington. I believe he hit Brian Thomas on a deep crosser there. Like there's opportunities. It's so hard to really identify that. And like you said, Bo, when it comes to identifying coverage, is one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL doing it. But I think that with the way that they drop everybody out and they leave their linebacker stagnant, they leave their flats exposed, and they'd like to rally and tackle, like slow and scrape to the football and make plays out in the flats. RJ Harvey is a great missed tackle. He forces a lot of missed tackles out in the flat. Marvin Mims, get him out in space. What does he do as a punt return? He makes everybody miss. Troy Franklin has the ability to do that too. Like there's opportunities here to exploit what the Bills do with their coverage and even not have to attack downfield. And it ties back into that ball control level offense. Like this matchup is so fun to really like break down the nuances and try to find the ways that the Broncos could win, the ways that the Bills could win. But I think that the way that I've broke it down, I think this is going to be a close, grinded out type of game. Eric, we're going to have to get out of here soon. But let's get into a couple of just quick predictions. If you had to guess any one player that on the Broncos offense that you think is going to have like a big breakout performance or is like the key X factor, who do you think is going to be in this matchup right now?
It's got to be one of the running backs, and for everything that I've highlighted, it's you got to force that change with it and all that. But so yeah, it's got to be with that. But before we get out of here, I want to get over talking about the defensive side of things.
Oh yeah.
Obviously tackling. We started the show talking about tackling. Tackling is important. The Bills, they do such a good job of breaking tackles and everything. I'm really curious to see what they're going to do. They have 5 receivers healthy. One of them is just coming off of injured reserve and Curtis Samuel. Another one is a practice squad call-up. What are they going to do? I'm really curious to see what Denver's going to do in response to that. How do they use Patrick Surtain? Keon Coleman, he's one of those receivers, and Tyrell Shavers, that's the guy who just was put on injured reserve for them. He still played more snaps than Keon Coleman did all game. Shavers played more games after he tore his ACL against the Jaguars. Like, that's insane. Keon Coleman is on his way out in Buffalo. But the concern here, Denver against non-top 2 running back or non-top 2 receivers, Denver's 28th in allowing yards and allowing success rate, allowing catches to non-top 2 weapons. Another thing here is James Cook. He's an X factor for them. And you kind of touched on it with RJ Harvey. The 2 best defenses in the NFL with handling running backs out of the backfield in the passing game, the Bills and the Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a big one. Denver, I think this is a game where Denver can focus on taking the run game out of it and trying to force them to pass the ball and use those receivers and trust their cover guys. I think that this is a good opportunity for Riley Moss to really bounce back from the struggles because penalties have cleared up, but ever since he started wearing those boxing gloves, he's losing his assignment a little bit more because he's not able to grab on and hold on and ride them throughout the route. So this is a big opportunity for them. But I saw a question. I was trying to find it in the chat. Outside of Greenlaw and Hufanga, what's different with this rushing defense compared to last year where the Bills just ran the ball at will? DJ Jones, best year of his career as a run defender. Malcolm Roach, best year of his career as a run defender. Zach Allen, best year of his career as a run defender. John Frankenmeyer's best year of his career as a run defender. Alex Singleton is healthy. Justin Strnad is significantly better than he was. Yes. No Cody Barton either way. And Cody Barton was such a glaring issue last year in that playoff game. Still concerns about Nik Bonitto and Jonathan Cooper going up against Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown with how massive those 2 tackles are and how physical they play. Deion Dawkins remains one of the best left tackles in the NFL when it comes to run blocking, going against Nik Bonitto, who he's never going to be a good run blocker or run defender. He's never going to be a great one. He's a very opportunistic one. Then you have Jonathan Cooper, where Spencer Brown is one of the best run blocking right tackles in the NFL. And Jonathan Cooper has been really rough over the last few weeks, ever since the mini bye week, both as a pass rusher and a run defender. So Denver, hopefully with PJ Locke, he's good. Hopefully with Dre Greenlaw, hopefully with Hufanga, Denver's able to factor in that with those edges, Hufanga especially, And I don't know if you saw, I absolutely love Hufanga's mentality entering this game. He wanted the Bills because even though he wasn't with Denver last year, he saw what happened for it, and he kind of wanted revenge on Denver's, help get Denver, revenge for Denver in this one.
I think the biggest matchup here is just obviously stopping the run game, not allowing James Cook to take over everything. So there's a really fun statistic floating around there out on Twitter. And I heard it on the radio a couple different times today. The Buffalo Bills this season are 1-4 if James Cook has less than 100 total yards of offense, whether rushing and receiving combined over 100 yards rushing, doesn't matter. 100 yards combined of total offense. The Bills are 1-4. The one game that they won was last week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So keying in on James Cook and stopping the run, specifically James Cook, and making this sounds crazy, making Josh Allen be able to beat you throwing the football. Like,
it's not, and to add to that, it does sound crazy, but it's not because of Josh Allen. It's because of the way the wide receiver room is.
Exactly. Like, this Bills team is so flawed right now. Their defense isn't great against the run. They're good against the pass. They run the football really, really well, but they can't throw the ball. Bo Nix has more passing yards, passing touchdowns, a lesser interception to touchdown ratio, and a higher passer rating than Josh Allen does. This is a freaking MVP candidate we're talking about playing against the Broncos defense next week. Like, in not even what? It's 7:45. The game starts at 2:30 Mountain Time. Like, we have an MVP candidate walking into Mile High Stadium, and Bo Nix has played, statistically speaking, a better season than Josh Allen has. Making him beat you with the weaponry that he doesn't have outside of Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid, and James Cook, because they have nobody that's going to test your secondary right now. Like, quite honestly, it's Khalil Shakir versus Jaquan McMillan and Khalil Shakir versus Riley Moss. Those are the two matchups you need to watch in this passing game. Outside of that, I think that Greenlaw and Strnad can do a well enough job in coverage against Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, and you can figure out a way to limit James Cook in terms of running the football. Don't let him escape and break tackles out on the boundary as a receiver. You can limit this offense so long as you don't let Josh Allen beat you with his legs. If you can do that, you have a really, really good shot defensively to win this game. And then tie into that, Josh Allen has been hit and sacked the most times in his career this year. This offensive line, while they're very, very good, they are a very good unit. They have allowed a lot of pressure. And if Josh Allen gets hit 6 or more times, the Buffalo Bills are 1-6 this year.
I will say that I would expect the Bills passing game to go through their tight ends.
Yep.
With Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid, and even Jackson Haas, who is already probably one of the best top 5 blocking tight ends in the NFL. Man, I wanted him in Denver to draft him in the draft last year so bad. But that is a concern. Jahdae Barron has been hit or miss when it comes to how he's handled tight ends, and a lot more misses as of late. Alex Singleton, without Brandon Jones, they no longer have their guy who's helped covering for them. Can PJ Locke do that? That remains to be seen. Can PJ Locke hold up with the tight ends? We've seen some issues there in his limited time filling in for Brandon Jones as a starter. Who, I don't know if you know this, Brandon Jones, it's basically been confirmed he's done for the season.
Yeah.
Kind of expected that. So Denver's got to get that figured out. How can they handle these tight ends? And here's the thing. Denver wants them to stay in their 3 tight end sets. They want that to happen. Yep. Because if they try to run out of that, where the Buffalo Bills do a pretty solid job with it, the Broncos are one of are when you accumulate all the stats together and all the different analytics, I would say Denver is the best rushing defense against jumbo packages. Jumbo packages, again, it's just the term that's being used here for anything that's 2 or less receivers. However that split is, whether it's extra offensive linemen, multiple tight ends, fullback, whatever it is, it's just 2 or fewer receivers. They are one of the Denver's one of the best. Bills pretty solid for there. So Denver wants them to stay into that. Yep. And force that. It helps them be able to take away the receivers. It helps them be able to focus in on the run, key in on the run, and it really changes what they want to do. So the key with that is, and it's kind of going back and forth with this. This is going to be an ultimate chess game between Sean Payton and Sean McDermott. With it, or Vance Joseph and Joe Brady in this case of what we're talking about.
Yep.
Bills are going to be trying to force multiple receivers and be able to run and have an effective offense against that because of Denver's issues with covering the non-top 2 receivers in the for opposing teams. But Denver's going to try to force them into big packages. Which one gives? That's probably the team that walks out losing.
Yeah.
Seems very generic, but that's just the way it is. One last thing before we get into something that's a little off topic of the Bills, but still relevant to the Broncos. Special teams. Buffalo Bills, one of the best kick return teams in the NFL. Denver's really bounced back since, week 10? The mini bye week after the Raiders. I think that's where most of the splits are happening for the Broncos. They have been a top 5 kick coverage unit. Bills are, again, one of the best. The Broncos are one of the best punt return units, and the Broncos are one of the best punt return units, and the Bills are actually one of the worst punt return units. So the return game on both sides is going to be very important in this one.
Yeah. So just going back really quickly, we're talking about the Bills and their success rate with 12 personnel, the Broncos and their success against 12 personnel or less than 2 receivers on the field. This is according to Nate Tice on Football 301 podcast. Since week 10 on plays against offenses with less than 2 wide receivers, the Broncos defense ranks first in success rate, third in rushing success rate allowed, third in EPA per play allowed, fifth in yards per play allowed, and fourth in explosive play rate. Like heavy personnel, if you can force the Bills into that heavy personnel where they have Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid, or Jackson Hawes on the field all at the same time, that's an advantage for the Broncos defense without questions. I mean, that's an 8-game sample size or 8-week sample size anyways.
Yeah, we have Deanna Hendry coming in with another $50 super chat. Sorry it took us so long to get to this, Deanna. We appreciate it. We thank you so much. Saying Mims needs to have a great game. So does Bonitto and Cooper. Running backs need to run and share the touches. Go Broncos, #win. 100% agree with everything you said here. We've touched on a lot of this. Marvin Mims, not only does he need to be help contribute to those explosive on offense, both at running the ball in certain cases, but catching those short screens, making something happen, going deep. But as a punt returner as well, Nik Bonitto and Cooper, there's going to be a lot of pressure on them after the game they had last year in the playoffs against the Bills of bouncing back. And Cooper, even since the bye week, he has been rough. Jonathan Cooper, since the bye week, has been one of the worst edge defenders in the NFL. He has been awful. And it's not just discipline. His technique is lacking. It's like he's been dealing with an injury that nobody knows about, but there has been something that has been off with him. The lack of discipline, selfish play is there on tape. It's easy to see with him with the lack of discipline. Needs to be better. And the running backs, again, we already highlighted how important it is for them to get going. But before we get out of here, Lance, I have a question for you that deals with the coaching staff here. It sounds like that Vance Joseph pretty much has I don't want to say he has a job lined up, but there's a team that pretty much has him lined up to be their head coach. It seems like Jim Leonard may be on his way out. He's had now 3 teams interview him for defensive coordinator. Davis Webb, he's a popular candidate to be paired with Vance Joseph as offensive coordinator. And there's a lot of talk that Jim Leonard or Jamar Cain could potentially follow Vance Joseph as defense coordinator. If it's Jim Leonard gets a job in Dallas or one of the New York teams and Jamar Cain follows him, are you in a panic about the Broncos potentially losing these 4 coaches? Or are you worried at all about Denver potentially losing these 4 coaches?
If you're losing VJ and you're losing Jim Leonard and you're losing Jamar Cain all in the same offseason, I really am. And you and I talked about this last week when the news was breaking that Vance Joseph and Jim Leonard and Davis Webb, they were all starting to interview. Actually, you know what? The Jim Leonard news broke really late. So that's kind of an interesting piece of information. We heard that, I believe, today that he was going to interview with the Giants, I think is what it was, right?
He has interviewed with the New York Jets. He has interviewed with the Dallas Cowboys, and he is, according to rumors and sources and stuff like that from, I believe Art Stapleton, New York Giants cover guy, was the first one to touch on it. Jim Leonard is on the short list for Harbaugh to be the defensive coordinator there, but no interview there.
Right, gotcha. So regardless, if you lose those 3 pieces, I mean, Jim Leonard with the work he's done with the secondary, Jamar Cain specifically with his defensive pass rush, the work he's done with the defensive line, and also tying in with the linebackers, that to me is cause for concern. Am I going to panic about it? No, because you have Sean Payton and all the connections that he does have. And honestly, it wouldn't surprise me to see him try to reach out and go talk to the Chicago Bears to try to acquire Dennis Allen. Like if they could do that.
There is no way
head.
that trading for Dennis Allen should be even a thought.
It wouldn't surprise me.
He's done a great job with Chicago. Don't get me wrong. And last week I completely forgot that he was a defensive coordinator. I thought he was a senior assistant. But he's done a great job with them. But trading for a coordinator is just a hard no.
Right.
That said, if there's any year to do it this year. This year, just trade picks from this year. This draft class is awful. You're probably going to get, if you're picking, Nick talked about this morning, if you're picking somewhere in, 26 to 32, the caliber of player you're going to get is probably a guy that would have gone maybe, 50 in the 50 to 64 last year. Maybe.
I was gonna say, yeah.
It's bad this year.
I mean, this class has, every class obviously has their top 50 players, but the top 50 players this year, you're getting 12 maybe first round picks. You're maybe getting 20 second round picks in like a normal draft class. You're like, most of these players are going to be 75 or after. Like it's not a great class. And if you want to throw a third, so let's say Vance Joseph does get hired by, and I'll just drop it here, the Arizona Cardinals. I think that's actually where he's going to end up. If he does get hired by the Arizona Cardinals, you get a third round compensatory pick for that. That's a top 100 pick. Send it for
this year and next year.
Exactly. Yes, you're correct. Maybe you could do that. I don't know. You and I talked about it last week. I think you mentioned Ben. Is it Ben Niedermeyer? Is his name?
Ben Niedermeyer is one of the assistants on it. I don't think he's a defense coordinator candidate, but he's probably in line for a position coach.
It's the defensive side of the football, right? And that's also true too. The defensive side of the football, with the amount of talent that you already have. I mean, everybody on the roster for the most part, outside of Brandon Jones, who coming off the torn pec, you could definitely re-sign him. The safety class is also really solid as well. So replace that. You've got solid guys in Bonitto, Cooper, Jonah Ellis is a really great rotational piece. Dondre Tillman is another solid piece there. This edge class, if you wanted to go and add to that, Q Robinson is there. John Franklin Myers is really the only key cog you're going to be moving on from after this season, unless Alex Singleton moves on too, which, that is what it is. There's enough talent on this defensive side of the football, and there's enough versatility. I think you can kind of, I don't want to say plug and play. It's never really truly a plug and play, but I'm not necessarily worried about losing all of that coaching level on that side of the football, because I believe in Sean Payton to have enough connections, whether it is Dennis Allen, whether he does want to go and find somebody else. I trust him to find the right guy to come and accentuate this coaching staff to help accentuate the talent you have on the defensive side of the football. So am I worried? A little bit. Sure. Am I going to panic? No.
We have Deanna Hendry also gifting 10 Mile High memberships.
Good Lord.
Thank you so much, Deanna. Lady D, you've absolutely been killing it tonight. Thank you so much for your support. If you are one of the lucky ones and you're sitting here in the chat that were the recipient of one of those gifted memberships, please give a thanks to Lady D for it. And we hope you enjoy the content to it. I still got to get around to talking to an idea that I have for the off season in terms of, membership content. But going back to
D, no, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, it's something about.
Yeah. So speaking of Lady D, I want to jump back to this $50 super chat talking about Marvin Mims. I asked you a question earlier. What player on the offensive side of the football could be an X factor that would be like a way that the Broncos could win this game? I think it is Marvin Mims. And I think it is specifically him out of the backfield. We haven't seen a lot of that this year. The Broncos used it a little bit sparingly last season. Getting Mims on the boundary out of the backfield, like in the screen game and in the swing passing game, this to me is a huge key. Yeah. Opening up Marvin Mims in this offense is something that I really, really want to see happen this week. Like that to me is a big one. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, it's all good. I was just getting real quick on that with the defensive coordinator stuff. I think there are a lot of great defensive minds that are available this year.
Yeah.
That are, you don't have to trade for. That's part of why I'm not worried about if Vance Joseph leaves or Jim Leonard and or Jim Kane. I think there's a lot of great guys out there, a lot of guys that can fit with what Sean Payton kind of wants, because what he wants defensively doesn't align with what Vance Joseph wants to do defensively. He can find somebody that he might agree with a little bit more. But I think there's just too many defensive minds out there to justify trading for a coach, for a coordinator. But again, as I said, if this is going to be the year, if you're going to do it, this would be the year to do that. But that's going to end up doing it for us. But before we get out of here, of course, we have Greg Smith coming in. Can you please give us your score predictions for the game? We always do it at the end of the show, whenever there's a game, obviously. So, Lance, what's your score prediction for this game?
All right, first, before I get into that, guys, make sure you go over to milehighhuddle.com. The Mile High Huddle Roundtable has already hit. It hit yesterday, I believe, at right after noon, where the entire staff's picks and predictions are up at milehighhuddle.com. Make sure you guys go, please, and check that out. For me, I kind of touched on it. I think that this is one of those games where the Broncos really need to suck the wind out of the stadium. They need to suck the time off this clock. They need to establish the running game. They need to be efficient. They need to be timely when they exploit explosive plays if they absolutely can, but run the damn football. Keep it on the ground. It's supposed to be cold. It's supposed to be windy in Denver, like a high of 39 degrees, potentially a wind gust 15 to 25 miles an hour. The last time the Broncos played in a windy game like that was the Week 10 game against the Las Vegas Raiders, where they won 10-7 because Jeremy Crawshaw couldn't learn how to punt and Bo Nix couldn't throw into the wind. If it's windy and blustery like that, you absolutely have to run the football. Accentuate your success rate. Do what you do best. Run the ball. Suck the clock dry. The Broncos win 20-19.
I am actually 1 point off of difference from Phil. I have it 24-16 going in Denver's favor. I wanted it to just be at the very edge of being a 1-score game. So I went with the 8-point difference just to be right on the edge of it.
All right.
What the Broncos have done. 8 points is a 1-score game, whether you want to or not. All it needs is one touchdown in the 2-point conversion. That's it. It's a 1-score game.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I think that if you have to put the football in the end zone twice, you have to score twice.
Well, technically, you have to put the ball in the end zone twice if you're kicking an extra point too.
Well, put the ball through the upright.
Technically,
7 point.
Where's the upright? The upright is on the back of the end zone, so you have to put the ball in the end zone.
All right, what's the easier play? The point after touchdown or a 2-point conversion? You have to put the ball in the end zone, like catch the ball or run the ball.
I know what you meant. I was being a smart ass about it.
That's where I draw the line. At like an 8-point game is a 2-score game because you have to put the ball in the end zone twice. Man, we will argue over this to the end of the earth. I swear on everything. It's
because an extra point and a 2-point conversion are viewed the same. It's the extra points after the touchdown, and it's based off of touchdowns.
Yeah.
But anyways, I have Denver doing that. I have Denver being able to step up against the run. Talanoa Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw, I think, are going to be both key players in this one, even though Dre Greenlaw hasn't been great. I think Alex Singleton is also going to be key in this one with helping defend the run. Again, not having Cody Barton out there, who was absolutely terrible all season long, and the splash plays made Broncos fans think that he was so much better than he actually was. So glad he's not out there and, playing terribly with Carolina or whoever it was, wherever he ended up. But the improvements that they've made on the defensive line as well, in terms of individual level of play, Uwazurike taking his game up to another level, being able to have that rotation on the defensive line that they didn't have last year. I think that's a major difference for this defense. And then offensively, I think that Sean Payton's going to be in his bag. I think they're going to find a way to have success running the ball and keeping that going and playing to their strengths on the offensive side of the ball, which is some stuff that Sean Payton has really touched on. I do worry because he did make a comment about writing run the ball on his card, and we know what all happened last time when he did that. The 8 runs in the first half, and when the Broncos had a lead last year against the Chargers, 8 runs, unacceptable. So I think Denver's going to be able to get it done. I think they definitely have a lot riding on this one. They know they have no excuses for it. They have the rest. They have the health. They have the home field. Everything's in their advantage for this one. The fact that the Bills had have 6 days between games, and 2 of those days are travel days.
Yep.
Right? They had to travel on Saturday to go to Jacksonville, travel back Sunday night, Monday morning. They had to go do a walkthrough because they couldn't practice because of from their travel. Then were traveling today. Like, you don't have a lot of time to practice to install things. No excuses for the Broncos. I have the Broncos winning 24-16. And if the Broncos lose this one, chat, I'm sorry, you're probably going to hate me Monday morning.
I'm probably going to hate you Sunday night because the private chat.
I am a terrible person to talk with when games are on, by the way. Like, I am so much worse than I am on here with what I say. I'll just leave it at that.
It's a lot of fun in the group chat. I will tell you that. It's really a lot of fun.
It's all humor. It's all jokes. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate you guys. But before we get out of here, we do have some final words, of course, as we always do before we get out of here. First of all, I want to say thank you again for everybody who gave me who reached out to me on Twitter or Facebook with the happy birthdays and the belated ones. I appreciate it. Heard more from the Mile High community than I did my own family for my birthday. So, when I said it's fine, that's kind of why. But thank you guys so much. But before we get out of here, as you guys can see rolling across the bottom of the screen here, one way you guys can help us that doesn't cost any money is subscribe, like, and share. It only takes a matter of time. It helps us fight the algorithms that are ever changing on Facebook, on YouTube, and Google that are making things more complicated for us and ever being frustrating on our end. And if you are able to financially do so, you guys can go over to youtube.com/@MileHighHuddle and become a member. You can also gift memberships there if you're able to do so as well. Or you can leave super chats on YouTube or stars on Facebook. And those are other ways that you guys can help us financially and help us leave the lights on. And again, help me be able to do this full time to where I don't have to worry about having to work during the game because I'm getting paid to watch the game. Unlike some other people.
I have 2 middle fingers. I have 2 middle fingers. Sean Payton said that. I have 2 middle fingers.
But another thing you guys can do, again, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you guys can go leave a 5-star review for a chance to win some gear, not swag. I hate saying swag every single month. You guys can also follow us or go to mhhmerch.com. Again, talking about gear, not swag. I hate saying swag. You guys can get hats like the ones that we have on, shirts, coffee mugs, all sorts of stuff over there. Make sure you guys join the Mile High Huddle Discord server. The link is in the description down below if you're watching over on whatever you're watching on. And then I think you can get it on Twitter or go over to youtube.com if you're listening to this after the fact, either on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever. Join there. A lot of fun conversations going on there. I wish I could comment in there a little bit more often than I do, but I'm a little bit too busy, and especially during games with how I have to watch games living where I do.
Yep.
I often requires my phone for that. You guys can also follow us on Instagram @MileHighHuddle with an underscore between mile and high and huddle. Speaking of Facebook, you guys follow us up on Facebook. Facebook.com/MileHighHuddlePod, Facebook.com/MileHighHuddle, where we have built up a wonderful community over the last 13 years. Finally have it down. Thanks to Chad for that. Talking about for the birthday wish yesterday, Chad mentioned 13 years. So finally, 13 years is how long we've been around for Facebook or for Mile High Huddle. So the wonderful community, you guys can join up and be part of it there. Mile High Huddle on Twitter. You can follow us there @DVD_pod, @MHHpod, or Lance and myself @LanceS_MHH, @Erick Trickel. And you guys can always reach out to us there no matter what is going on. We are one of the many Mile High Huddle podcasts that come to you every single night of the week and twice in the morning. And with that, Lance, any final words?
I just want to grab this one comment from our guy Naj. Naj, the GOAT. This dude, by the way, Mile High Huddle Mount Rushmore came out. Like, you guys have been fantastic, literally all year long. This is one of the greatest communities I've ever been a part of. The love and support, appreciation you guys show us, we reciprocate it back because you guys allow us to do this on a weekly basis, for Eric on a daily basis. Like, it's so much fun to be able to come to you guys on a Friday night. But Naj here coming out and saying, I think the Bills will come into this game super confident because of last season's game. Obviously, the big blowout in the playoffs. We need to come out early and set the tone, show them this is a completely different team. It is a completely different team. And the Bills are a completely different team. It's a completely different game. I think the Broncos match up way better this year than they did last year against the Bills. And yes, they need to come out and set the tone. And it's going to help a lot when you have 78,000 people from the Denver area and all of Broncos country screaming as loud as they possibly can. I cannot wait for this game to kick off tomorrow. I'm so stoked and I'm so confident that the Broncos are going to walk away with a victory. Like I said last week, I'm more confident in this team winning this playoff game and getting a chance to go and win a Super Bowl than I was for the 2015 team. Thank you all for joining us. You all stay safe and take care. Have a great rest of your weekend. And as always, go Broncos.
Yeah, and one last thing on that noise, make sure you're being loud when they're in the huddle. That's when they're communicating the most, make it the hardest to hear there. And then when they get to the line, make sure you're doing that. That also can lead to errors. Man, over the games that I've been to, the amount of times that it gets really loud as they're walking up to the line after they break the huddle, and then it gets quiet right when they're actually, making the adjustments pre-snap and all that. It's frustrating. There's 2 points when you're loudest. Huddle and when they're at the line of scrimmage, aligned and getting ready to snap the ball.
Make that stadium shake, guys. Let's go.
And then, of course, before we get out of here, Papa Bear, Naj, Shannon, Deanna Hendry, thank you guys so much. Much love to you all. Thank you guys for joining us. Hope you guys have a wonderful time. Stay safe. And again, if you guys are struggling with anything mentally, make sure you reach out to somebody. Suicide hotline, reach out to there. You can reach out to me on Twitter, on Facebook, whatever it is, email. Just if you just need somebody to talk to, make sure you guys check in on your loved ones, make sure they're doing okay. And make sure you guys choose kindness and compassion. Make sure you guys don't drink and drive. Stay safe. And of course, go Broncos, beat them Bills.